thanks everyone for taking the time to register for this webinar. We'll be talking about blockchain trends, the past, the present, the future. We have just a ton of content to go through. We're 2 minutes at the beginning of the hour. So we're going to just go ahead and dive right in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this. I'm not going to spend any time on this. If you've been following us for the past year and a half, then you know what Envision Blockchain is doing in the space. We're a full service consultancy and blockchain system integrator. For more information on us, please visit www.envisionblockchain.com, and you can see all of our different services, our training workshops, what solutions that we leverage, etc. For purposes of this presentation, we're going to steer clear of the blockchain 101. So we're going to end up saying a lot of terminology that you may or may not be familiar with, depending on your level of involvement within the space. Every day when we conduct our workshops, we typically start with the blockchain 101, and then we help our customers all the way throughout production deployments. The more that we get, in tune with the customers, it was a different experience about a year ago to where it is right now. Clients are coming in with already some sort of understanding of what blockchain is. But in case that you want a little bit more training, in case you want to help your team and your colleagues within your organization get up to speed with what blockchain is or what values you can get out of it, we do offer two specific workshops that are featured right now. The first one is our Enterprise Blockchain Discovery Day, and the second one is our Decentralized Identity Management Half-Day Workshop. And we'll tell you more about the second one as it really aligns with one of the hot topics, which will be decentralized identity. So if you're familiar with identity management, how it applies within a decentralized nature, and you have some interest around it, well, then this is the right topic, and I'm glad that all of you have been able to join. So we're going to go ahead and just dive right in. Again, we have, not that amount of time. We don't have that long amount of time, but we are talking about something that we can easily spend a week talking about each one of these topics. But just to kind of lay out what it is that we're going to talk about for the next 20 or so minutes, we're going to be talking about the past, present, and future, just like what the webinar says. But when we talk about the past, we're going to do a quick review of the evolution of blockchain technology. Again, if you're already familiar with this world, this is going to be a refresher course. If you're not, this is a really good place to start, because we have to understand where we came from to know where we're going. And when we're going to get into the second topic, we're talking about present. I mean, these are, by no means is this the only list of hot topics and trends happening. It's impossible for us to be able to lay out all the hot topics, obviously, but we just picked a couple that we thought that are going to have some big impact in what's happening right now, and that are going to affect what's happening in the future. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start with the past. I do want to mention out to everyone that we do have a chat. I forgot to mention some housekeeping notes, obviously. So if you have any questions at all, please do us a favor. And if you hover over the More button, there should be a chat function. And if not there, then we also have a Q&A box. And you can definitely go ahead and ask any questions. We do have Jason Pansis, who is going to be moderating the chat. My name is Dan Orkin, and we're both co-founders over here at Envision Blockchain. So let's talk about the past for a second, right? Because the past is important. So when we talk about the past, we need to kind of discuss this quick blockchain history. Again, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but really quickly, Satoshi Nakamoto released Bitcoin white paper. And that really changed the way that we're looking at, this sort of cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. It was kind of hard to separate the differences from that. But the next phase after that was the separation of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And still today, we still hear that, it's kind of a going joke where Bitcoin is blockchain and blockchain is Bitcoin. But what we aim to do is we aim to separate that by saying that, not all websites is the internet, right? So websites operate on this internet technology that we use. So this separation of blockchain and cryptocurrency is basically meaning that the cryptocurrency just runs on blockchain technology, which kind of, started this whole next layer of evolution where, you take a look at some of the good speeches and they talk about kind of evolution 1, evolution 2, evolution 3, blockchain 1, 2, and 3, and we talk about smart contracts where you separate an asset being transferred, say like Bitcoin, right? It's an asset and you can transfer it from one person to another, where now you can introduce almost like business logic, if you will, that says, well, if somebody mows my lawn and they're done, then I'm going to pay them the $40 or something like that, right? So that's a very simple way of explaining what a smart contract is. But you can exchange value by having some sort of business logic included in there. Okay, so the next phase is DLT innovation via frameworks, consensus algorithms, etc. And what's interesting from this DLT innovation via frameworks, consensus algorithms, etc., is you started to see this explosion of different type of ledger technologies that are coming out that are inspired by blockchain, that are different types of blockchains and different ways to validate transactions that are happening. And all of this innovation really led to the current phase that we're at right now, which is this enterprise use case development and industrialization, which is a really interesting case because, we start from just, the Bitcoin white paper, and then we're moving over to smart contracts, and then we're getting to different innovations and frameworks. And we're starting to see that there's so many different use cases that are across many different industries where you can leverage this new sort of technology, right? And these pictures that we have here on the screen from left to right, it kind of shows in picture form the different phases, how we are moving from just cryptocurrency, right? And don't be fooled by just token, because we'll talk about that next, to moving to smart contracts in the middle, to moving to this, enterprise use cases and case development and really productation and industrialization. So, again, in the past, we're having our customers and our clients and the use case workshops and everything that we're doing, they're asking these questions. Can blockchain really help reduce time? Can it really help reduce costs? Can it really track assets? And how does it do that? And can we really secure the identities? And can we really provide immutability, where now we're just entering this phase saying, well, this is how we can do that. And this is how we can save time. And essentially this workshop that we showed you at the beginning, just to kind of go back, and we have this Discovery Day training, Discovery Day workshop, is where we actually lay out all these value streams and help you see exactly where all of these different values can be derived from. So, with that in mind, we're going to quickly spend, the majority of the time being caught up to the present. And I think that what is important is to think about how it is that we came from this, just a single thought with Bitcoin, and how we're separating that to now, what are the current trends and topics that are happening in this current time that's not only proving what the past is doing, but at the same time, it's setting us up for the future, right? So, decentralized finance. And over the next couple slides, I'm essentially going to be discussing some of the hot topics, like I mentioned at the beginning. And again, it's not by any means all of them, but it definitely will help understand kind of where it is that we are moving to. So when we talk about decentralization, and we're talking about decentralized finance, you're seeing that it's really, like the quote says on the left by Cointelegraph, it's saying that the motivation behind decentralized finance is simple. There's an estimated 1.7 billion people who currently lack access to financial services. So it's not only, it's not only helping individuals from getting access to different financial vehicles and different instruments and different banking systems, if you will, but at the same time, it's helping organizations that are in the finance sector do things that are more efficient, that are saving you time, saving you cost, right? Those are all the points that we spoke about that is part of this industrialization and the different enterprise use cases. So now we're moving into this where we're actually putting the rubber to the road, and things are actually starting to form, and businesses are now beginning in production world where they're running real life business data and assets in decentralized finance, and they are realizing the benefits. So for example, we have payments, we have stable coins, exchanges, investments, marketplace, lending. I mean, this is not the all-encompassing list. It's just for starters, if you will. But it's giving you, it's giving you an understanding that, you can see that payments can be applied through many different type of use cases with supply chain, with, traditional banking, etc. Stable coins is interesting because if you've heard of stable coins in the past and you heard of cryptocurrencies in the past, what stablecoins aim to do is they aim to be pegged against currency, so that if the market volatility moves up and down, well, at least you know that you have these quote unquote stable coins or these tokens that are going to keep that stability. Exchanges as well, and investments. We're going to get to an example in the next screen, and there's marketplaces and lending, like we just mentioned. So let's give an example of, a real life example, what's happening with decentralized finance right now. So as it relates to decentralized finance, Santander Bank, member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, very, very deeply ingrained in blockchain exploration, different types of use cases. About a month ago, they had a press release, and Santander said that they launched the first end-to-end blockchain bond. And I'm just going to read off it here for just a second. So Santander used the public Ethereum blockchain, one of the most advanced open source blockchain technologies. This allows Santander to achieve the milestone of tokenizing the bond securely and registering it in a permissioned manner on the blockchain. The cash used to complete the investment on-chain, which means, on blockchain, on-chain delivery versus payment. And the quarterly coupons have also been tokenized, i.e. representing digitally on the blockchain. Thanks to the automation, the 1-year maturity bond has reduced the number of intermediaries required in the process, making the transaction faster, more efficient, and simpler. And this is what we were trying to get at by listing these questions at the very beginning, right? So naturally, you don't want to use technology, forget about blockchain, any technology in general, if it's not going to improve revenue or reduce costs or just help out in some sort of fashion, right? Otherwise, we're just spending money unnecessarily. So, what we need is more organizations like Santander to continuously keep using these sort of technologies to prove to the rest of the world what's happening. This happened literally last month. So, so for those that are familiar with Ethereum, One of the ways to take a look into the Ethereum network is something called Etherscan, which is a blockchain explorer. And you know, one of the benefits of the public blockchain is that anybody can go ahead and see any transaction that happens. Naturally, a lot of information is encrypted, so you're not going to see too much information. But here's the the transaction ID and the Etherscan proof of this Santander decentralized bond issuance right here. So just to kind of talk about some of the things that we see over here in the screen, there was a total supply of 100 NTN. There was one address that is holding it. There's been 3 transfers, right? And then if you were to click on the contract, you can dive a little bit deeper and see some more information around that. So, to kind of help out and understand how and why this all worked, I think it's just, really interesting to go talk about this sort of swim lanes. So we'll kind of read this out loud just to kind of talk about how this entire decentralized finance and decentralized bond issuance, how this worked, right? So we're starting with the investor, right? So the investor wires the cash to Omnibus account at custodian. Okay, the custodian creates the tokens and sends back to the investor. The investor sends the tokens to the issuer. Then the issuer then sends bonds to investor. The issuer sends tokens to the custodian, and the custodian wires cash to the issuer. Automated. Then, with the coupon, we have the issuer wires the cash to the omnibus to the custodian. The custodian creates the tokens and sends to the issuer, and the issuer sends tokens to the investor. And then the investor sends tokens to the custodian, and the custodian wires cash to the investor. Again, reading back is that thanks to this automation, this 1-year maturity bond has reduced the number of intermediaries required in the process, making the transaction faster, more efficient, and simpler. Again, if you want more information on what this could particularly look like for your organization or different types of finance applications, please let us know. But given the amount of time that we have left, we have to keep this moving. The next trend is tokens. And tokens, right, we're trying to separate Bitcoin, blockchain, tokens. Tokens now have this meaning of you can create a diploma token, oil, coffee, movie tickets, bonds that we just saw, OEMs, plants, and loyalty points, right? So the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance has this initiative called the Token Taxonomy Initiative, and it's working together to develop a token model that is blockchain neutral. Doesn't matter what blockchain ledger that you're using, irregardless, and it creates a universal and simple language to define the tokens. And here's the very, basic structure of how the Token Taxonomy Initiative works to classify the tokens. You start at the very high level, at the hierarchy, and you have base, and you have fungible, not fungible, subdivisible, whole, transferable, non-transferable, etc. And when you start to now define this, you can now define whether it's a fiat currency, ICO, a SKU of an inventory piece, stock, loyalty point, a bond, a piece of art, a vote, etc., where we're talking about the value of what this bottom layer is, but now we can start to define all these pieces together. And I think it'd be really interesting. So Envision Blockchain was just in the news about 2 weeks ago, and we collaborated in what's called as the single largest enterprise collaboration in the history of the blockchain space. And it was picked up by a number of articles in the the news outlets. And it was something that we built together for the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. We worked together with Intel and Microsoft, a company called iExec and Consensitive and Kaleido, and Santander, Chainlink, and Enigma also had other parts in that demo workshop. And this is a trusted reward token. It is the first use case to emerge from this Token Taxonomy Initiative, the TTI, born within Microsoft to establish a common framework for tokenizing value across a range of blockchain networks, not just within the EEA or on Ethereum. What we'll do is we'll showcase a really quick demo of what the solution did. I'll go ahead and hit the play button. So you're basically logging in as an admin. You're registering a member account, right? And again, I'll just pause right here just for transition. So we're logging the identity of that particular member organization. And we are also going to be logging in the identity of some of the employees on here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll enter some information. And again, the employee was just logged in here. And essentially what we're doing is we are incentivizing a reward system where if someone goes ahead and participates in something, in this case, it's a written contribution in this demo, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance can go ahead and issue the tokens, and you can see the tokens have now just been deposited in this member organization. The member organization can take these tokens and redeem them for swag items, for example, right? And also in parallel with the redemption or with the reward tokens, there's also reputation tokens. And you can see that the tokens could also be shared among different organizations. And we're just showing case here how you can go ahead and from the admin approve it. What's interesting about this, and we'll showcase a little bit more in the next slide. So what's interesting over here is that it's not just dealing with a blockchain ledger per se. The entire deployment diagram includes the blockchain ledger, which over here is hosted in Azure. It's the Hyperledger Bisu node, formerly known as Pantheon. And it is also including what's called a trusted execution enclave that you could see right over here. You have the Azure SGX, which is provided by Intel. That's a trusted execution enclave. So that handles some of the business logic around the creation of the tokens in a very secured manner. Again, for more information on this, please send us an email. We'd be happy to discuss this in further detail. The next hot topic is decentralized identity management, and Microsoft published a white paper not too long ago. In it, they stated that every person has the right to an identity that they own and control, and one that securely stores elements of their digital identity and preserves their privacy. And we think that this is just really, really important, right? Because you can think of a lot of different areas where, not to mention any names, but there's been data leaks, there's been data hacks, there's been companies selling people data, right? And this is all important because the next wave, the next trend is all, we as human race, we want to be able to control the identity and the elements which is being shared. We may need to share some things, but we want to be able to grant the right to do that without somebody doing it without our consent. So here's a snippet from that white paper that basically shows a university, right? So you have a user, let's call that a student, that goes ahead and they have an app. And in that app, they go ahead and they register their attributes. Let's say their classes. Let's say that the university that they go to sends them a diploma upon finishing school, right? And that diploma then is shared and stored in that user data store that you can see right here. Then that person goes out on a job hunt. And maybe they go to one employer, maybe they go somewhere else. Maybe they get discounts at some, Netflix, right? For example, on a subscription if they have an MBA. I don't know, I'm just making this up. But they need to be able to share this sort of information. So then that information comes back to the user and then they go ahead and grant that access to read this particular attribute. And on that topic, the last month's webinar that we had was around decentralized identity management. And we partnered with an organization called Cambridge Blockchain. And together we have a decentralized identity workshop where we spend half a day with our clients to help them define what are the policies that's needed and what are the compliance, the compliance requirements that are needed in order to conduct your business as it relates to identity management. So here I'm going to go ahead and share the video from last month's webinar. And in this case, we're setting up a policy for a healthcare organization that wants to be able to take on individuals' blood type attributes, right? So we're creating a policy around blood type. And you can see that we're going through a bunch of different screens, and we just added the attribute of blood type, and and we can set certain things to be encrypted, not encrypted. We're not going to get too deep into this. And essentially, now that we created all these different policies and all these different attributes, what's important and how we're going to take it in as a business, right? This is from a business compliance perspective. What's going to happen that you're going to see on the next screen as soon as we get there is we're actually going to sign out of this, and now we're going to get into the user side of it, right? So everything they're looking over here, and I know that we're going really quick, it's from the business side of it, from the corporate side. But now we're signed in, and here's the personal data that a normal everyday person has, right? So now they want to go ahead and add their blood type. Now that they have their blood type and their personal data storage, any organization that has access to this particular individual, they can share that upon that consent. We're showing here now a different part that we talked about, two different types of use cases. And this is somebody applying for a refinance loan. And when they apply for the refinance loan, they need to share certain attributes that has already been written to a blockchain, but is stored solely in that individual's personal data store. So as we go through the different screens, the institution that needs to do the KYC check on the refinance loan has to go and ask for the permission of the individual to go ahead and share that particular attribute. So again, for more information on that, please let us know. We'll be happy to discuss that. I know that we're about a minute away, so I'm going to kind of speed this up. Another trend is enterprise blockchain. As we've been talking about, we've talked about public blockchains, enterprise blockchains, and organizations like Microsoft are really helping out with providing the infrastructure to very easily scale up and scale down different types of blockchain ledgers. And we provide all different types of training to help you understand what these different SaaS models, and as they call BaaS models, blockchain as a service, what they look like. But there's different enterprise organizations, like we mentioned, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance and the Hyperledger Foundation, that are building these consortiums that they are working and building enterprise requirements into different blockchain projects, so that as we work together and we help define what our customers needs, what our business needs, and we collaboratively work together in an open source type of fashion, that we build the right technology for the future. And speaking of the future, the last slide that we have over here, we're going to talk about this super quickly. This is a really quick survey from Deloitte Insights. And as you can see, 2019 over 2018, the overall optimism of blockchain and the importance of it is steadily increasing year over year. So what does the future look like? If we talked about some of the important aspects, I mean, there's so many new projects that are happening, but one that really we recommend to keep your eye on is what they call the Roadmap to Serenity, or Ethereum 2.0. This addresses a lot of the scalability, privacy, so on and so forth, with the public blockchain Ethereum, which is being adopted more and more and more. Another hot topic is around interoperability. Having these different blockchain networks kind of siloed is hindering adoption as a whole. So as you can see with the type of these Enterprise Ethereum Alliance and the Hyperledger Foundation and the Token Taxonomy Initiative and setting up standards around tokens, interoperability is just around the corner, and it's being worked on literally as we're speaking right now. Also, keep an eye on all these cloud providers, Azure, AWS, Google, IBM. These are the folks that are providing the infrastructure and are leading this rapid technology to make this blockchain infrastructure really simple, one-click deployment, so we don't have to focus too much on the technology. What we need to do is just focus on the business. And we will leave you with this model over here. Gartner earlier this month came out with what they call the 4 phases to blockchain spectrum. And this is interesting. I'll take 1 second to talk about that. So we started out before 2010 as the Internet of Information, where we have databases, you have this connection to the World Wide Web, you have privacy, encryption, and that's good. But now we're entering this era, or we're kind of there, or maybe we're at the very end piece of it, what they call blockchain inspired, right? So you have your database, you have immutability, you have privacy, you have this network of the web, but you're not necessarily using blockchain to the fullest decentralized fashion. This is where we get these Flurry DBs, or we get the Amazon Quantums, or you get, organizations that are leveraging blockchain, but without the decentralized nature of it, right? It's good. We don't want to say it's bad because there is no right or wrong. This is all to help out the whole future adoption. But what we're going to see, and we're just on the cusp of it right now, is this blockchain complete, where we're not just leveraging this immutability and this immutability and encryption factor, but we're actually leveraging the complete decentralized nature of this governance structure that we're calling blockchain to the truest, to the purest form. And then, of course, in the future is this enhanced blockchain. So those are 4 future trends that we really recommend that you keep your eye on. They're going to be moving the market. They're going to be moving the industry. And it's looking like a really, really positive one for a really positive future ahead. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, we really appreciate all these attendees. It's super, super overwhelming. This is just a sign to us that, blockchain adoption is happening. There's a lot of interest around here, and we really hope to hear from you soon. So until next month, thank you very much and take care.